All right. Last time we looked at the first part of this lesson on a glad heart and a heavy heart, pointed out the fact that a glad heart is that which would have good that was put into it, whether you have good words or good in the sense of that which is good in its nature being added to the one, or good words that had been told by someone else to them. All of those things, and also depends upon doing what is wisely. In other words, putting to action what we know is good, and of course that's found from within God's Word. So now we want to look at the second one on friends and neighbors, and see some of the proverbs that are regarding that. That first point on the counsel of friends is sweet and sharpens the mind. Proverbs chapter 27, who will read verse 9, please? Verse 9. Anybody? Okay, Matt. And verse 17. Jason. All right. Verse 9.
Oil and perfume make the heart glad, and the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel.
Okay. And then verse 17.
Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another.
Okay. You said iron sharpens iron, and what is yours say in the latter part of that?
Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another.
Okay. The one I've got from New King James reads that, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. And so trying to lay the same points, but to a different end there, it seems to me. When you look at this, go down to question number 10 that we've got on the lesson sheet. In Proverbs 27:9, why is a hearty counsel of a friend compared to perfume? Why is that? Go ahead. All right. There's something that is there that is good or pleasing, delightful in that sort of a way. And so the point that is being made is not just that the friends are good, but the counsel of the friends in that way is something that would be good. And here in verse 9, as excuse me, let me try to get that. In verse 9, as you look at this very thing, the point is made very clear there along the same line. I still can't get my notes to come up the way they're supposed to. Here we go. All right. He says it's a delight to the heart, and the sweetness of a man's friend gives delight by hearty counsel. That idea of counsel, or something that is spoken to him at way of advice or purpose in being, is a part of that goodness about that friend. In verse 17, then, it has the same kind of a point that is made, that as iron sharpens iron, how does one friend sharpen another? Latter part of that verse. Okay. So a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. In other words, he's able to be the one who bears up under that. And whereas the other one might be, his way made difficult by that, might be ready to give up or whatever else, somebody saying to him, hang in there, get after it, you can do this. That's the kind of thing that is being discussed there. In both senses, it's the counsel, the advice, the kind of urging, I guess you would say, of an encouragement that is being talked about there. Why is that always good with a friend that we trust? Okay. What if it comes from a stranger you don't know and have no confidence in? What tends to happen then? Okay. Apprehensive about it. What else? All right. Kind of irks you, doesn't it? Why are you talking to me about that? I don't even know you, kind of a thing. We have to overcome some of those sometimes to recognize that good advice can come from a place that you wouldn't expect it and from somebody who may not even have your best interest in heart. But we need to look at a counsel for what it's worth or for the advice that's there and kind of see that. It's easier, though, if it comes from someone who is known to us. All right, let's go down to the next one, that friends are faithful. This gets to the idea of what a true friend is like. Someone, Proverbs 17:17, please. Go ahead, John.
A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity.
Okay. In number 12 that you have there, how often can a friend be depended upon? What's the point of this? At all times that are there. If you notice the last part of that, some are pointed out at all times. Some of them have something like a brother is born for adversity or trial, something like that. The word literally has to do with that, like a trial. And the sense of it is that a friend loves at all times and is especially there during times of trial. Or that's how you know the difference between a true friend and one who's just a fair weather friend, as we sometimes call it. What is so needed about a friend being there at all times, even in the time of trial? What's the special value of that? Go ahead.
Well, in my experience, if you're that close to a friend, they know how to be with you and how to lift you up. And because of that, you are lifted up and encouraged.
All right. Anybody else? Why is it especially needed that those friends are especially helpful for that friend to be there in time of trouble? Go ahead, Art.
Because sometimes they'll tell you the hard truth you need to hear.
Okay. Sometimes they'll do that. What else? Okay. During that time trial, a threefold cord is not easily broken, Mary points out. In times of trouble or trial, do you tend to know what you did wrong? More often than not, you probably do, if you've reached any kind of a sense of maturity at all. And what happens? A lot of times that person is the hardest on themselves of anyone else. And here comes along a friend that does not excuse the behavior, but even in recognizing, yeah, this is a problem, but I'm going to help you through it. This is not something where I'm going to give up on you. That's the idea. Is that sometimes there are those who are just, like we said, fair weather friends. They'll be there for a while, but when it comes time that trial has been there and now all of a sudden you're not the greatest person to have around as a friend. Now, really, you might be some baggage on them that you are still around them and helping them. That's the one who truly can be counted on. That's the friend that is needed and is there at all times and born especially for adversity. When you're a friend to someone, you evaluate your purpose for being a friend. Why are you that one's friend? Is it something you get or is it something you give? And when you do that, you recognize who those good friends are. That they're there not just to receive something from you, but to give you what you need. That may be admonition, it may be encouragement, whatever else is there. But that difficulty, that time in which there's trouble that is there, that's when you notice the ones that are truly there for you and those who are not. Anybody else got a point there on that one? This next verse, chapter 18 and verse 24, I need somebody who has a New King James or a King James. Do you have that? Okay. Clayton there. And then I need somebody who has, I have American Standard, so I'll do it after you do. Go ahead.
A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother.
Okay. Now, notice that wording, and then this wording. He that maketh many friends doeth it to his own destruction. But there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. That last part, much the same, right? What's the difference in the first part? What did yours say at the first of that?
A man that hath friends must show himself friendly.
Okay, so what's the suggestion there? What is the point of advice? If you're going to have friends, you what? Need to be one who's friendly in that sort of way. The other one of those is the statement that's made, he that makes many friends does it to his own destruction. You have any idea how those two very different things can come from the same thing that you have in the original language? Probably not. And if I took time to explain it, I think we'd be out of time after that. But this is a weird kind of an idiom in the Hebrew. And the point is, I think, the one that comes out of the New American Standard Bible or the American Standard, it's an admonition against having many friends in the first part of it. Let me tell you why I say that. The first one of those, if it is a friend needs to show himself friendly, you ought to have there, rather than the contrasting but, you ought to have and or something that reaches a conclusion in saying there is a friend that sticks closer than the brother. That would be along the same lines. The other one, if you make many friends, is to your destruction, but there is a brother or there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. That seems to me to be the point that is under consideration when you look at it. There are a few things where there's a doubt about what's in the Masoretic text, but in the text of the Septuagint, which is almost always what the apostles and Jesus quote in the New Testament, the Greek version of the Old Testament, almost all of those will have this sense to make it clear that it's the latter reading that they would give, that one that if you have many friends, it's to your own destruction. Mary, you have something. The King James has and there. Don't know why. I haven't seen that there, but the American Standard probably will do that because they try to be as literal as possible. And they've got the but there, which is what the word is. It's a contrasting from the Hebrew and also from the Greek. All right? Now, would both of those be true? Yeah. How's the first one true? The idea that if you're going to be a friend, you must show yourself friendly. Or that admonition, that's true. If you're one who's just sullen and doesn't really want to have much to do with anybody, well, you tend to have friends. And that kind of, nope. How about the other one? If you make many friends, you'll do it to your destruction.
It could be you can have maybe you can have a lot of friends, but you can't have a lot of close friends.
Yeah. And when you're interested in amassing friends, bunches of them, what's typically the attitude there? I'm trying to acquire popularity. I'm trying to get people to myself. It's trying to get that kind of an aim to where you may tell one this and another this because this is what would have got you this friend, that's what would have got you that way. You're trying to amass them, and sooner or later you've got a problem. Also, when you have a lot of friends, can you ever be very much a close friend to every one of those? No, not really. And so the point is, It's this kind of a binding. What do you have with one that's kind of that closer person? And that's why I think that latter part of it, that contrast, gets to the very point. There is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. That's what you need, is that one who is a close friend that is there at all times, as another said, or is there in a time of trouble, or is closer than your kin. Go ahead, Scott.
Had a guy tell me one time, when you try to be everything to everybody, you end up nothing to nobody.
Yeah, that's right.
You just can't spread yourself that thin.
Grammar's not that great, but the point
Exactly.
is, yeah. All right. Go ahead, Aaron.
I think this is a great discussion right here and topic, because for us that have children right now, immediately my children remind me that I only have like 500 followers on Twitter, which means I really don't have that many friends then. And we could go into Facebook and things like that. This is very relevant to today. Yeah. And this idea of more followers and being a YouTuber, and I know Scott doesn't know about any of this.
No.
So I wanted to share that. But we are living in a society that is very important to people. The number that I have. I will say this. I have to be honest, I do like the NIV version a little bit better.
I did not check yet. Tell me what that says.
Unreliable friends.
Okay. In the first part,
Yes, sir.
read that, will you? Okay.
It says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes for ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother.
Okay. All right. I get that. Your point is on the one who's getting the friend rather than the other. Okay. I understand that. Go ahead.
There's a note in my text that, and this is out of the New King James, that it has a note that says, the original Greek says, may come to ruin. So if you have many friends, there is that possibility that you may have ruin because of it. So
Yeah.
that fits better with the ASV, I think.
With the American Standard. Yeah, that's what they're saying, is that's the other rendering that may be there.
It's just saying that was in the original text.
Yeah, in the Greek text, in both of them you have, it's the translation of an idiom from the Hebrew. Now, do they always get that idiom? No. Many times it's not, and especially with regard to Hebrew idioms, that which we have the same kind of thing. He's on his last leg. Well, we didn't mean he's down to one leg, but that's the idiom that you're having a hard time. Those are difficult sometimes with Hebrew, especially when we think with a very different mind than the Eastern mindset that was there of the Israelites. All right. Whichever one of those, my point is, it really doesn't matter. Both of them are true. They lead you to a true point, just two different ones. All right, chapter 27, verses 5 and 6. Go ahead, Tyler. And then chapter 27, verse 10. Go ahead, Colby. All right.
The New King James.
It doesn't matter to me. Go ahead either way.
Open rebuke is better than love carefully concealed. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful.
Okay. The point being what? It's comparative, right? With regard to the first verse, what do we sometimes like better? A love concealed might say nothing. We might think things are okay there. Why is an open rebuke better than a love that's concealed? Okay. It states what is so. It helps. The matter of concealing it or a silence that is there doesn't help in either way of that. And then, getting to the point of that kind of a rebuke, faithful are the wounds of a friend. Why? Why are a friend's wounds faithful? Okay. They come from a true friend. The very nature of them being a friend is that they have at their interest our best. And so there's a rebuke in order to lead them to that. Go ahead, James.
The same reason Jonathan told David, thou art the man.
Yeah, that's right. That this recognition of this, his being wrong and being the one who had done this, that's right. That was a true open rebuke. That was an act of true love. All right, those fateful wounds, fateful are the wounds of a friend. They're needed, they're helpful to bring one back to what they should be. But, he says, how about the kisses of an enemy? They're deceitful. I had a guy I remember years ago. He had been very untruthful about what he had been teaching and where he was before on divorce and remarriage, and I'd had to call his hand on it and said, that's not what I get from your material. And we dealt with that. And the next time I saw him, he came up right there. I was in a place where there were a bunch of brethren, and he came up and kissed me on the cheek. Well, number one, I don't like guys kissing me on the cheek. Really, I only like one girl kissing me on the cheek, too. But the idea of it was, I knew that was just for show. It made me sick. And that's the point that is involved, that these kisses of an enemy, all they're done for is a public show of something, to hide what's really there. And so the point is, you don't want that. I'd rather have somebody who would tell me the truth and it be a wound as a friend than conceal that hatred that might be had by that kind of a false ploy. Go ahead, Tyler.
I think the other thing about truth when it's concealed, whatever it may be between two people, is that it usually tends to fester between both parties. Either one is picking up on it or the other party is thinking about it. And whatever friendship may have been there at the beginning or that started, it slowly just grows apart to where it's almost even more obvious to both parties that it's not real. And then there's bitterness that comes with that, because the one person's upset that they're not being truthful, the other person's upset that they're not being their friend and acting odd or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this, undercurrent between the relationship that no one's discussing, and it's actually more damaging. I mean, you can't even maintain that friendship at all without that honesty being there in any
True.
way.
It's like trying to maintain any relationship, husband and wife, without honesty. Forget it. That ain't going to work. Anything else there? Go ahead.
Can't let that one go without thinking about Judas.
Yeah, that's right. What we sometimes call the Judas kiss, which is exactly what that point is. Did I ask somebody to read verse 10? Okay, Colby, go ahead.
Do not forsake your own friend or your father's friend, nor go to your brother's house in the day of your calamity. Better is a neighbor nearby than a brother far away.
Okay. Out of all of them, to me, this is the most difficult in getting exactly the point of this. And the problem isn't in the first two parts, it's in the third part. And it's not too hard to see the first two parts. Do not forsake your own friend or your father's friend. Why not? Obviously, the point is, the one that is your friend you want to be faithful to, per the other statements. Why the father's friend? What's the point of that? Why would we even care about our father's friends?
They're proven,
Do what?
they're proven people.
Okay. All right.
You may already have an advantage because he's your father's friend. He may, by default, care also for you.
All right. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, forsaking your father's friend would be bringing shame to your father.
Okay. The idea, I think has to do with the faithfulness that is owed toward your father. That you need to be a faithful son. You need to be out about your father's best interest. And the point of that is, if you have been, or this father and this friend have been friends for a long time, what is this friend going to have done for your father? He's going to have been a friend, been a helper, and been one who's close, provided him many good things. So what's the point? On behalf of my father, I'd be good to that person. Whatever the case, one of the people I call every month is a fellow who was a friend of my mom and dad. He and his wife were a little bit younger than mom and dad and all their friends when I was growing up from Pampa, Texas, and they now live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But I call him every month, and the reason is because he's special to me. He was always good to my mom and dad. And when they needed somebody to be a friend, to be a helper in times of sadness or trial, difficulties that were there, they were always there. And whatever the case, I'll be there at his funeral and her funeral if I possibly can, because there's that meaning to me. I attach that matter of what they've done to my father. When you have the proper regard toward your parents, you have a high regard toward those who were their friends. And that has to do with honor of your parents. It is what you owe to them in many cases. We don't have some of a newer generation learning some of those things and some of those values, and I hate that that's so. But that's the point being made here, and I think that's what's owed them. All right, anything else on that one? Second step then, in verse 10, nor go to your brother's house in the day of your calamity. First thing, what does that mean? What's that talking about? Not to go to your brother's house in the day of your calamity. Is that talking about a brother as in your family relationship brother? Or a brother as in one who would be a friend or kinsman at heart? What do you get from that? Go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to see what you said about that before
I beat you.
Yeah. Earlier I was thinking about the relationship between friends and how there needs to be a balance for it to operate properly. With a friend, you need to have that willingness to be there to help and be reliable. And as the friend, you need to be reserved about going to that friend. Not to say that they're not there to help you, you're not there to help them, but there has to be a little bit of a boundary.
Yes.
Going to that person with your crisis, your calamity, and dumping that on your friend.
That's clearly going to be the last thing addressed in this, the third part. And also in one of the other Proverbs that we'll look at, no doubt about that. Anybody else have something before I take my swing and miss?
Well, I see it as they're talking about fathers at the first, so I assume, blood fathers.
Okay.
So I would assume they're talking about
Blood brothers, okay.
Because
That's where I'm going to go.
you can have, some people are blessed in that their blood brother is their best friend. I'm not, and I know many others that aren't either. But
That's very rare, I might add,
yeah,
in some ways. Blaine, you had something.
I was just going to say that 18:24 and verse 10:2 really reminded me of the relationship that David and Jonathan had, and how when David was in trouble, Jonathan was the one that helped him out, not
Right.
his family.
That's right. Even above his own father, because of what was right. Okay. Let me go at this next one. Nor go to your brother's house in the day of your calamity. I think the point being made is like Scott had noted, do not forsake your friend or your father's friend, and I think the emphasis of that, your father's friend, because of what they've done for your father. Now, you'd have this relationship of a closeness and the help of that one. Now, who should you go to? In a time of calamity, do you go to your brother just because he's your brother, he's your kin, and depend upon him? Or would you go to that one who is a friend that's closer than a brother, this one that's had a family relationship that's there, that closeness is seen? I think it's the latter. I think it's talking about the sense, don't just go to your brother and show up and say, oh, I'm here because I got some problems that are there. You go to the one that you've built that relationship with, is the sense. They'll be able to help you. Now that's so, as far as I can see, for either of two ways of looking at that trouble. Is it physical trouble that you need some help with, or is it that trouble as in trials, mental trials, this sadness or whatever else? Either way would fit as far as I can see, but the latter would be more the sense of it, that mental turmoil, those kind of things. My brother may not be able to help me with that because he doesn't even know what's going on. But that friend is there close by, and he understands that. And he's the one who will be able to help me in that time of trial. I think that's the point that's being made. Go ahead, Steve.
The way the Jews were in this setting, their neighbor would have been their brother.
Their what?
Their neighbor would have been their Jewish brother.
Well, not always.
Well, I would think as a general rule, so it seems to me that that is talking about their relative brother, because that's you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because generally, their neighbor is their Jewish
Well,
brother.
their neighbor would have been, but though he was around, he may not have been the one that was closest to that person, is the thing that I'm suggesting. Rather than going to their neighborhood brother who's close by, if you had families dwelling together, sometimes that was true, sometimes it wasn't in the Hebrew culture. But if they went to him rather than the friend that they had built some relationship with, they'd be more likely to get that help, that understanding from the friend that was closer than a brother even, as it had been put in another one. I think that's the point, but it may well be that you have that. Okay.
Is that better as a neighbor nearby than a brother far away?
Okay.
I think that's...
Oh, you're getting down to the last part.
I was combining
Okay.
that together.
All right. Yeah.
I would think that is mean it's better to go to somebody close by, as in neighbor,
Gotcha.
than to a brother. If that was the case, the brother is, I guess I'm not explaining.
Yeah. No, I got you now. I was off somewhere else.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's why, to me, that their neighbor would have been the brother, if that's what they were referring to.
Okay.
As a brother, meaning Jewish
Yeah.
brother.
Okay. All right. And that's the idea then, better is a neighbor nearby than a brother far away. So that would have been so. Okay. Go ahead. And then I'll come to you.
Maybe a good example might illustrate this a little bit in the Bible is David and his older brother Eliab, and then Jonathan. On that very day he killed the Philistine, Eliab gave him a really hard time. And
Yeah.
we'll let you just see the friction going on there. And
Right.
and where Jonathan, it says Jonathan sold clay to David, and from that day on they were
Yeah.
best buddies.
Yeah.
And
Very clearly, that's who is referred to by David in the Psalms in that sort of way. Go ahead, Kurt. I've been for some reason calling him Chuck. I'm sorry. Kurt.
In the day of your calamity, if you're really needing help, it would seem to me to be better to go to someone who has care for you out of love and dedication, as opposed to family obligation.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Anybody else there on that one? Okay. Let's get to that next one. Casting insincere and ostentatious accolades upon friends is considered no more than a curse. Chapter 27, verse 14. Who wants to take that one? DJ? And chapter 29, verse 5. Anybody? Doug, go ahead. All right, 27:14.
He who blesses his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it will be counted a curse to him.
Okay. Wonder why that is. Ever had a chance to sleep in? Somebody calls you about 5:30 in the morning. I used to get a call now and then from Tom about 6 a.m. in the morning because he thought I was already up at least an hour, and there were a few times I had to get a nice little fake voice. Hi, Tom. You know, but at any rate, there's that kind of a sense. Okay, next one on 29:5.
A man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet.
Okay. You got two different problems that may be there with friends. The one, that kind of a being one inconsiderate or something, trying to get a hold of them in a way that is going to be disturbing, or in the other sense, in 29:5, the idea of flattery being there, to make one kind of flattered, to feel like they owe somebody something. Whenever someone flatters you, what are they doing? I mean, why do they do that? Okay, they want something. The idea is, I don't know what that is. That's not necessarily saying they want something out of you monetary, or maybe they want you to feel better about yourself, but not in a way that really is proper. I don't need to be flattered if I've done something wrong and somebody said, no, that's really right. That kind of flattery is not needed. That's unhelpful. But I need to be recognizing the truth and encouraged along. You don't have to give correction in such a way that it's adversarial. Correction can be put in a way that helps along, that goes in a good direction. I remember Harry Pickup Sr. was attending where I was preaching when I was in Thenota, Sassa, Florida. He only was there for about a month or so. Jim Cope was out of town during that time, so I was preaching morning and evening during that period. Brother Pickup would always come up to me and talk, and this is the old one, not the ones y'all probably know, Junior. This is the older one. And he would tell me something about a point that somebody made, and after I got through, I was always captivated by him and thought, man, that's a great point. And it was clear to me after I'd left, what he was saying is, here's what you should have done. But he didn't say that. He put it in such a way that he gave me something there, and I thought, oh, that's good. And it would have been a lot better if I'd done that than this. And that's something that is a gift, to be able to have that kind of a way with one, to where it is, you don't flatter them, you give them the encouragement or correction they need in a way that helps them. Go ahead.
Yeah, flattering is an insincere compliment or encouragement. You know, you've got to be wise enough, if you're being, to figure out if you're being flattered or complimented and encouraged.
That's right.
You know, I mean, you have to be good enough if you're really trying to compliment and encourage somebody, that it doesn't come out like flattery.
Yeah.
Because I remember a long time ago, I was a guy that I'd went through a sales class with, and we've each got our own territory, and we met back up, and I was, you know, sincerely asking him questions about his territory, and because he was doing really good and
Yeah.
everything, and boy, he made a smart aleck remark about how I was flattering him, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to know. I was trying to be a friend to somebody
Yeah.
that I knew, and I guess obviously I wasn't doing it right, but You know, he wasn't smart enough to know that I really cared, you know.
No doubt those of you who have been here for a while will remember this one. The funniest case of this to me was Jeremiah Cox when he was here, and he preached the lesson about whether something was real or not real, and he said, like Santa Claus. And all of a sudden, every kid in the audience out there, you could feel they're going like this, and I mean, you just didn't have anything but laughter there for a few minutes on that. And I heard somebody go to him afterward and says, well, I doubt any of them remember that. Oh, yes, they did. And when I talked to him later, he was saying, well, how do you get over being embarrassed? I said, don't take yourself seriously. Just go on. I've made some big goofs, and you made one, so go on, no problem. Flattering and saying, man, nobody even noticed, you know, obviously, that's not true. It broke the house down for about 5 minutes. So it was something where you need to give an honest evaluation, but in a way that is recognizing and encouragement along the way there. Anything else?
Okay.
Go.
If you notice, a lot of times with flattery, it's done in a very public way where other people hear it. And then sincere compliments are often done in private, where there's not that benefit of other people seeing and hearing what you're talking about.
Yeah. Sometimes so, and sometimes some people are deserving of public compliment too. And if it's proper, it's according to the truth, then that's good to make those too. All right, anything else? Go ahead, Tyler.
There's a lot of things that can be said, the exact same thing could be said by someone, and depending on the relationship between those two people and the meaning behind it, there could be outside people that may think it's flattery, there could be the person receiving it that thinks it's flattery, but we can't really determine, I mean, I think that you have to maybe be careful in saying, no, that's not true, they're just flattering me. I don't like Scott's example, but, you know, I mean, there's, a relationship usually tells the tale whether or not it is a true compliment or whatever it is and flattery. But, I mean, to me, I think that it would be easier to err on the side of their being truthful than everything is flattery and it's wrong. You know, I think that's going to be a pretty hard life if you think, oh no, they didn't actually think I did a good job. They're flattering me. I don't like them anymore. I don't know what they want. You know, I mean, just err on the side of, oh yeah,
Okay.
it is a pretty good job.
All right. That last one I'm just going to get to real quick. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house, lest he become weary of you and hate you. That's always knowing when to be a visitor and when not to. Always heard that the visitors and fish both stink after 3 days. But sometimes it may be before that. But who knows? We'll stop right here. Who did I say? Rhett. Rhett will lead us in closing word of prayer and we'll be dismissed.